Hey guys, any of you remember me? For the 5 of you that care, LOL. I've been so wrapped up in school these past few months that I simply haven't had time to do any more videos. I actually did start a Let's Play of another game, which I will keep a secret, but the audio quality wasn't as good as I wanted it to be, so I've been forced to junk the 2 hours of footage I put together. Yeah, I was quite pissed about that. But anyway, now that the break is here, I'm ready to make some more videos for my channel, and I'm going to start by finally giving it credence to my title, The Game Philosopher. It probably seems like an inappropriate thing to call myself, as I've yet to talk about much philosophically, but I'm going to remedy that today by presenting the first of what I hope will be many discussion topics. However, before I begin, I'd like to refer you to the video description below. I have a disclaimer in there that some may think is extraneous and unnecessary, but which I'm including because I think it is necessary. Anyway, let's get started. Substance versus style. As an individual with certain, well, shall we say, conditions, I'm constantly trying to break things up into discernible, unmistakable elements to try and make some sort of sense of the almost endless, inherent complexities of life. In the process, I have developed a theory about the human condition that, objectively speaking, we cannot better anything, and that no options are better than others. They are simply alternatives with equal upsides and downsides. And I've come to view many behaviors that society cherishes as similar to other behaviors that society frowns upon. For instance, I have been arguing for years that confidence and arrogance are at least more difficult to distinguish from each other than people would have us believe, and at worst, two sides of the same coin. Side note, the only clearly distinguishing factor between the two seems to be that when one succeeds at his goals or turns out to be right, he is called confident, and if he does not succeed or turns out to be wrong, he is called arrogant. Okay, fine, you might be thinking, but what does this have to do with entertainment? Well, more than you might think. See, in my quest to distinguish things into clearly identifiable elements, a quest that will inevitably fail, as I believe life is far too complex for that, I've placed many things on what I call scales. In the case of confidence and arrogance, I have them sitting on one end of a scale, and on the other end, I have underconfidence and healthy self-doubt. The goal in life, if you ask me, is to try and stay as close to the middle of these scales as possible, even though inevitably we will sometimes veer off in one direction over the other. And I believe that most anything in life can be placed on these scales for comparison, including entertainment. When it comes to most entertainment or art, I believe the two extremes are substance and style. Neither of these can dictate whether a work is considered good or bad, they simply describe the work. While they are not in and of themselves easy to define, I will do my best here. Substance is the technical specs and the literal, clearly distinguished aspects that do things differently from other works. Innovation is one of the primary words associated with it, depth is another. Not all games of substance contain innovations, but most all contain depth of some kind, sometimes in the form of complex stories, and sometimes in the form of extensive content. Characters that feel realistic and are not generally cardboard cutouts, especially with regards to being good or evil, tend to populate movies, books, and games of substance, though certainly not always. Some examples of substance-oriented entertainment include the movie Pan's Labyrinth, the Zelda video games, most Mario games, and classic novels like To Kill a Mockingbird and A Tale of Two Cities. Style is a bit harder to define. I think the best way to describe it is that sort of popping off the page effect. It's kind of like taking elements that have already been done before and presenting them in a way that just comes across as appealing. In forms of entertainment like movies and video games, it involves things like matching up music with what's happening on screen, and in the case of action films, creating unpredictable choreography. In the case of literal artwork, it involves the inclusion of little details that make the picture come to life, such as bright colors and shadow effects. In books and movies, it often contains characters that are less lifelike, more simple, and the reason for this is usually because the focus is on the quick pace of the story or the action on screen. Some examples of entertainment focused more on style are many Disney films, particularly the action flicks of Jerry Bruckheimer like Pirates of the Caribbean, Deja Vu, and National Treasure, the Indiana Jones films, the video game series Devil May Cry, many anime TV shows such as Dragon Ball Z, and the Dirk Pitt adventures written by Clive Cussler. Virtually all entertainment is not clearly defined into one category or the other. It all falls somewhere between pure substance and pure style, even if each work tends to lean more in one direction than the other. An almost perfect balance of the two is extremely rare. While it doesn't always lead to this, many works that fall in that well-balanced area come to be regarded as the finest entertainment works of our time. Some examples of entertainment that I consider well-balanced include the phenomenal movie The Dark Knight, the video game Final Fantasy X, and the novels of Michael Crichton and Dan Brown. Side note, to be fair, many of the characters in Crichton's novels tend to be interchangeable with characters in his other novels, but the mere scientific feasibility of his ideas is, for me, so engrossing that I think it's fair to say there's more than enough substance in his work. So, in case I haven't been clear about what I consider substance and style to be, I'm going to present a metaphor that I think is quite accurate. Relationships. The substance of a relationship with someone you love is the compatibility, the similarities, the appreciation for the individual's personality and values. In a relationship composed exclusively of substance, the significant other also tends to be your best friend. The style of a relationship is the fiery red-hot passion, often associated with looks. It is the part that is more likely to be driven by hormones and sexuality. In a relationship composed exclusively of style, the significant other is, for me at least, something to obsess over and desire constantly in the sexual sense. The best relationships naturally fall as close to the middle of these extremes as possible. To summarize, in a relationship of extreme substance but no style, there is a meaningful connection as friends but no desire for each other, and in a relationship of extreme style but no substance, there is desire for one another but not much else. The kind of enjoyment that can be gained from each type of entertainment is something I feel can be distinguished as well. For me, entertainment that leans more towards substance provides a nice steady warmth that you can usually rely on to last for the entire duration of the experience. Often, good substance keeps something from getting dull over the long haul. For me, entertainment that leans more towards style provides something that hits really hard and fast, often eliciting a response like, "Oh wow, that's cool!" In the case of action movies, a genre that I believe frequently features more style than substance, it is accompanied by adrenaline rushes. The catch for style-oriented entertainment is that, despite providing a bigger high than the substance-oriented stuff, it's often a one-trick pony. For instance, most action flicks I see are really fun the first time, but on second viewings have lost most of their appeal. Why? Well, we could argue about that, but in my opinion it's because now I know what's going to happen in the car chase, or how the choreography is going to play out. In summary, substance provides a low but steady high similar to what one gets reading a good lengthy novel, and style provides an abrupt, intense high akin to using cocaine or other drugs. I think it's easy to see why an entertainer should strive to straddle the fence between the two types. Create something with too much substance in it, and you'll wind up with something so fleshed out that no time is spent drawing in the consumer. In many cases, you could lose the consumer in the plethora of details that leave nothing unexplained or to the imagination. Create something with too much style in it, and the consumer will be drawn into a world that is alive, but seemingly unfinished or cliched. Create something that balances the two extremes, and you wind up with something that starts with a lower high, sometimes goes to abrupt intense peaks, and then goes back to the lower high. You get something that contains enough technical prowess to feel fleshed out and enough life to keep the consumer involved. Let me remind you, the reader, however, that this is just the general method I think one should follow to create something that has greater potential to last and please more consumers. It does not mean that leaning in one direction more than the other makes your entertainment less worthwhile. It merely makes it worthwhile in different ways. And one of the things that often frustrates me about entertainment critics is that they seem to be almost exclusively interested in substance and give little credit for succeeding with style. It aggravates me even more because stylized games like Devil May Cry score so well with critics, while other stylized games like Piano 3 and 3D Sonic the Hedgehog games get panned, despite each containing the same rough amount of substance. Many Jerry Bruckheimer films get a lot of criticism too, while superhero flicks with similar amounts of style like Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 score well, despite having almost identical frameworks. The only genuine explanation I can come up with for why the entertainment critics react this way is because they are incapable of seeing when they've gotten so absorbed in something for its abrupt, intense qualities, and when they're having fun because of more substance-oriented stuff. As such, they seem to group games like Devil May Cry and films like Spider-Man with other things of substance. My more cynical and angry side likes to think this is because they don't want to admit they've fallen for something of style, because that would mean looking in the mirror and acknowledging that their attitudes aren't always right. But regardless, thank heavens, I'm not alone in my appreciation of style. If it weren't for the many consumers that enjoy stylized things, we'd probably see a whole lot less of them, and frankly, I think it's a shame that critics can't appreciate what style brings to everything. But then, given how elitist many of them seem to be, at least from my perspective, I guess I shouldn't be surprised. I'd like to conclude this little ramble with one final comparison for those who might have remained lost for the entirety of this video. Substance causes us to say neato repeatedly for a long time, and style causes us to say awesome a few times for a short while. Okay guys, that'll do it for my first foray into the philosopher side of my title. I've got plenty of other ideas related to this that I'm planning to work on, but for now, I'm thinking of doing some more Let's Plays on some games that I feel aren't very appreciated, and perhaps a couple blind ones on some games I just got recently. Please note that until further notice, the other two LPs that I started, Zack and Wiki and Dead Space Extraction, are on hold. Please feel free to give me feedback or leave your thoughts in the comments on my views of style and substance. Truth be told, I hope you do, because I'd like to get a dialogue going about the difference and which games belong to which categories. But regardless, I remain Cation Scythe, the dual-sided game philosopher, and thank you for watching.